mesmerized, as most of this country and most of the world, by the solar eclipse. The first time in 99 years that it was seen across the entire United States, in all areas partial, and in some areas total, and I was surprised that it actually brought me to tears. I can't even explain why. Awesome, literally awesome. I just felt the need to share a few words about this. Simon Jacobson here, and in looking at it, obviously the sight itself of seeing a natural phenomenon of celestial bodies that we're so familiar with, moon, sun, but coming into this unique configuration where the small moon is blacking out the entire sun, even for a few 2-3 minutes, is just something that is mind-boggling. And you can understand why in history this had such impact on people in all ways. And now with social media and the cameras, it's never been photographed and never been broadcast as much as it has been broadcast now. So just looking at it, the image of this the total eclipse, just looking at the image of it is just something that it reveals a certain dimension in life that we don't see every day. So just a few thoughts from a small resident on this earth. In the mystical teachings, and also you can say psycho-spiritual ones, the sun and the moon represent two forms of energy that's also within us. Though they're out there in the heavens, but they're so much part of our lives, they also represent something within us. You see the sun and moon in metaphors, in poetry, in music, in novels, in history, in religion, in faith, in spirituality. They play so many important roles. For example, though the moon is much smaller than the sun, and the moon reflects the sunlight, but there's something haunting about it, something romantic about the pale moon. You'll see two people who love each other stare at the moon. You'll never see them stare at the sun. The same thing when it comes to even werewolves. The idea of the full moon, it affects the tides. But in the mystical, psychological, spiritual sense, the sun in its steady light and its steady power represents what we call the energy of giving. Because it's a generator of energy. It's a flow, consistent, unlike a clock. It brings light and warmth to this world like no other force. The moon, on the other hand, is considered a receiving type of energy. It's a reflector, an absorber. And as such, it has a very different type of energy. So one thought, as the moon was passing over the sun, and this small, slow process, even though it's moving at 1,500 miles an hour or whatever it may be, it came to my thought that, maybe this is a reminder that even though we often see the generator, the force of the sun being the more powerful one, here the force of receiving is greater than the force of giving. And when you think about it, when you absorb and you're a teacher, you're a student of a teacher, in many ways that effort of absorbing can have much more power than the effort of giving. So in a sense, when the moon covers the sun, it has that element of teaching us the power of receiving, which is far more subtle. The sun is more powerful, and yet for a few moments we're reminded that there's something about receiving. And in relationships this is critical, because in relationships there's the giving part of relationships. We give love, we give comfort, we give nurturing, we provide, and so on. But there's also that beauty of being able to be vulnerable and receiving, and that overpowers the sun for these few minutes to remind us. Another thought, the Talmud says, the sun, which is of course the calendar of the secular world, follows the sun. So in a way, it's considered to be the covering of the sun. It's almost like a humbling reminder. It's called actually a wound of the sun because it's being concealed, in a sense, like showing the weakness of the powerful nations of this world. But it's not meant to be something that should be frightening us. It should meant to be a wake-up call. A wake-up call that as we look at this and we see its effect on us, besides the natural elements and the pictures and just the awe-inspiring moment of seeing something, suddenly the day turn into night, the temperatures falling, even animals and creatures having some type of effect by it. What happens is, it's also a humbling reminder that as powerful as we may be, as powerful as 7 billion people and the nations of this world may be, we should know that we stand as fragile, vulnerable creatures in the face of something much greater. And you see it in the reaction of people. That type of, the word awesome keeps coming to mind. Someone even used the word miracle. Usually you don't use miracles today, because even though it's not a miracle in the technical sense, because it's something that is a natural configuration, but it's a miracle in what it evokes in us, that sense of awe. So though we're going to go back to our lives, and now I'm in New York here, there's a partial eclipse, meaning we see only partial covering, and we saw it got a little darker here, and we will go back to our lives. The sun will continue to shine, and the moon will continue to rise in the evening. It's a reminder that should stay with us forever. As a reminder that tells us that in this big world that we live in, with all our successes, with all our achievements, with all that we give aggressive energy, there's something to be said about receptive energy. Something to be said about the lunar power. And that the lunar suddenly, though it pales in comparison and forever is reflecting the sun, yet here suddenly the reflector, the recipient, the student, suddenly stands and blocks the sun, showing us its own unique power. And the second lesson, that no matter how strong you may be, we always need a wake-up call and reminder that we are not all-powerful on our own. We were given gifts. We were blessed with life. Each of us is a luminary. Each of us is both a luminary, a large luminary and a small luminary, a sun and a moon. And our job is to be able to join the two and converge the two, that they live in peace and live in a way where they each give and take from each other. And that receiving energy, like the Talmud says, that the teacher was asked, where did he learn so much? He says, I learned much from my teachers. I learned even more from my friends and colleagues, but I learned most from my students. So today we've had a lesson from our student, the celestial student called the moon, that moon that we see in the heavens, that our parents and grandparents and ancestors have seen throughout history. And here they had this unique reversal of roles just for these few moments. These are some thoughts in trying to capture in words some of the mesmerizing elements, some of the awesome elements, some of the overwhelming. That we live in a world where there are things going on, mysteries that are beyond our scope. And here, I believe, are some lessons, and I'm sure there are more. I'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your comments, why you think this has such an impact on us, besides just the fact that it doesn't happen every day. But it's something, I believe, even more than that, something that's very personal and internalized. This has been Simon Jacobson. A few thoughts on the nature of a solar eclipse that we all are coming from, and that has captured the attention of this country, and I'm sure of the entire world. Everyone be well, and you'll hear from me soon. Another comment as opportunity allows itself. Everyone be well, be strong in your receptive energy, learn from the moon, and be strong in your giving energy and humble.